Hi, you're joining me, Esther from Stampin' Star Creations, for my peekaboo card tutorial today using this stamp set, the Gangs or Meer. So I'm going to take things fairly slowly in the hope that you get the hang of how this card is made. So here's my prototype, and I've just got a few changes that I need to make for the final card that I'm going to make. So showing you at all angles that it's made of 3 pieces, and hopefully you'll get an idea of how these are put together, where the holes are, which piece is the front, middle and back. So I will keep referring to the front, middle and back, and I've got tags to put on my pieces, so hopefully you can follow along. So the middle piece has got the 2 holes, and that front section folds into a flap, and then the back folds behind it. But please don't worry, I'm really hoping by the end of this video it will all become clear. I'm going to walk through step by step. So to make it easier, I've written out all of the measurements. You can screenshot that if it helps, but again I'll be talking this through. So I'll be using crumb cake cardstock, and I'm going to cut this down and label this for the back piece. And this is 4 1/8 by 5 3/4. So that's 4 1/8 by 5 3/4. So I'm using inches. I just find using inches easier. I'm sorry, you're going to have to convert it into centimetres if you want in centimetres. So working on the front, I'm doing all the cutting first. So this is 4 1/8 by 8 inches. Now I've underlined the 8 inches because I've taken a snippet off what others have suggested in their tutorials, and just taking off that tiny bit does make a difference. So doing all the cutting first, and then going to talk through the scoring with you afterwards. So for the middle piece, I'm using Whisper White cardstock, and because this is a thinner cardstock, it does mean that later I can punch through both sheets. So this measures at 4 1/8 by 8 1/4. That's 4 1/8 by 8 1/4. And this is going to sit in the middle of the card. I'm just trimming down a piece now for the front of the card. So because I'm using a coloured cardstock, I've chosen to use a piece of white for the front. So that measures 3 7/8 by 5 5/8. So the scoring for the back and the front, as you can see, are the same. They're both 5 1/2 inches. So I'm going to score those pieces first. Both the same measurement, 5 1/2. So you've got a tiny slither there to fold, and then a bigger piece for the front piece. There you can see that scoring is matching. Then for the centre piece, we're literally scoring this in half, so scoring it at 4 1/8, 4 1/8. So that's all the cutting and scoring for now. So give these a burnish with a bone folder, just flattening those creases, and make sure they're nice and straight for when we come to put them together. So as you can see, we want the shorter flap behind and then the bigger flap to sit in front for this fold. So here's the front. This is the middle that's going to sit behind it, like so. And then the back kind of sits like a Z shape onto that middle piece. So this is to show you that I've got a hole at the front which needs to come through to that middle piece. So in order just to align things up, I'm just using a bit of snail to place down the front of the card, which I'm going to stamp on later. And then using my 2-inch punch, lining that up, pushing it all the way through, and not being careful not to be too close to the edge. And because these punches are so sturdy, I can cut through that cardstock and through the Whisper White. Next, you want to get your middle piece and align it behind that front piece. Get yourself a pencil, and I'm just drawing this circle shape so that I can match all three of those circles up. Now, yes, you can use dies. I just found it easier to have my punches on hand, and so that I can punch my way through all the papers in one go. And as you can see, that aligns up with the front circle. So I wanted to create a focal point at the front, so I've got the 1 3/4 inch punch. It's punching at the smallest circle first, and then going in with the 2 1/4 punch, and this creates a ring shape, which I know I can stick down in between the front of the card and the crumb cake piece, as you can see from my sample. You don't have to do this step, it just, like I said, creates a focal point if you wanted it. I decided at this stage to go ahead and stick this piece down, just so that I don't have too many pieces on the go. I'm sticking it to the front because we've got some stamping to do now. So, as I said, using the Gangs or Meer stamp set and creating a gang of meerkats at the front. Now, I've gone ahead and already cut out some masks, so just stamp on some post-it notes or some sticky notes, and then if you do a few at a time, you can use these to cover up your stamped area so you don't get the image on top of there, and it kind of creates this crowd of meerkats look. Because this is for my son's 15th birthday card, I was trying to get 14 meerkats on the front, and then with one in the centre of the peekaboo card. So going in with Old Olive and stamping some cactus and this little cute lizard creature on top of one of the cactuses, and just adding some details, a party hat and bits and bobs. Next, I'm going in with my makeup blender brush in Crumb Cake and just laying down some colour in the background while I've still got those masks on, and just working carefully around the stamping detail. So just using my blender pen at this stage to pick out some colour and to just use this to colour in the cactus. So using the same Old Olive colour to create some shading in the background. And then working with Early Espresso, again with the blender brush. You can use your stamping blends, you can use colouring pencils, your watercolours, any choice of colouring in. The reason why I went for the blender pen is I could get lots of different shade of brown from the pen just by how much ink I picked up with the blender pen. So there's all the gang all coloured in and ready to party. So I'm taking the 2 1/4 inch punch, punching out a couple of circles, so these are going to fit through my window, and I'm going to do the stamping on this, and I will show you exactly where I'm going to stick those later. So I wanted to adapt how I did this card and have the greeting separate on one area to the other area. Now in the original, as you can see, I stamped straight onto the crumb cake, but I like the idea of it standing out on the white. Just masking off the area that I don't want to have ink on because I just wanted part of this stamp. Just wanted to have the happy birthday bit. I do have a little boo-boo, yes, but I managed to just ignore that and carry on. And then using the numbers from Family Party, and then stamping the word sun and the number 15. Now I put the circle into the front of the card to make sure that it does actually all fit in, because the circles that I've punched out are slightly bigger than the circle shape. So sticking with my colour palette, I'm using Old Olive and Early Espresso. And I'm trying to fit in this cute little fella to the side. just taking off some of the ink from the stamped image that I've just used, and there's enough ink on there to be able to colour this little dude in. Now, from all of us, I wanted it to be from the rest of the family, so I've got me, my youngest son and my husband in that image there, so that's why I masked off a few of the other meerkats. Using the blender brush just to shade in some colour on the edges. So the bit that we start sticking together, that thin back bit, I'm working from backwards to the front, sticks to that middle bit, just that little bit there. So don't go gluing anything else, you just want to glue that thin strip from the back onto the middle. So I've opened this out, so hopefully you can see how this goes. Okay, next we're gluing that middle section again, but just have it closed, and then we're sticking the front to the middle. That's with the flap open to the left. Sorry, I got my hands all over it, you can't actually see very clearly. So that flap to the left tucks in behind that white middle section, and then the back folds over that. So now that it's come together, let's just take off that post-it note. You can see how the mechanism slides, and you've got a nice sliding mechanism, nice and easy, and you can open the card fully without it catching. This is why it was really important to go down to 8 inches. So I'm first of all putting the circle on the back section and seeing where that fits. Because I'm using the multi-liquid purpose glue, you've got a bit of wiggle room if it's not quite in position. So just shut the card and just check that that's in place. Then for the next circle, which is going to sit behind the middle section. This was a little bit more tricky to try and explain this bit to you, to how it goes, but so I've opened all the flaps and you get an idea of where it gets positioned. So it's been stuck on the front flap, okay? So as you can see, I'm just on that crease and I don't want it to interfere with that. So I have to make sure that I do come over enough without interfering the mechanism. So I managed to fit it just on the right side of the crease. I'm just marking this with a pencil, and then I know exactly where it needs to be stuck down. Okay, again, just slowly showing you how this fits together. And there you have it, there's the mechanism. When you open the card, the peekaboo section will slide across and give you a new picture. Going ahead and sticking down the front panel and making sure it's on and making sure we can see all the writing and the rest of the image. I wanted to put some detail on the inside. It looked a little bit plain without anything on it, so I'm ripping a giant post-it note here just to act as a mask and bringing in my brush to create some kind of desert sand effect. I felt that the front needed a similar look to it because I wanted the look to tie in with the rest of the card, and this just helps to ground those meerkats. I used the stars from the family party stamp set just to add a bit of something else to the middle of the card, and I did actually have a few boo-boos that I needed to cover up, so that's why they ended up in there. I hope you get on with this tutorial. I hopefully have explained it well enough for you to be able to follow it and not to get into too much of a muddle. So thank you so much for watching, and do subscribe to my channel if you're not already. I'd love to hear what you think of my card today. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Take care. Bye.